everybody, and welcome to the Good Stories Podcast. I'm Jody, back again with Steven, and we have some thank yous to get us started today. So thank you to everyone who recently rated our show. This week we jumped into the big world of YouTube, and so there's likes and some feedback on there, which was very exciting. But I learned that you have to type it with bunny ears, little quotation marks, quotation Good Stories Podcast, or it will not show up. I know. I was really frustrated. I couldn't find my own show.
The things you learn.
Yeah. The other thing we're trying to do is we actually have financial supporters of our show. We call them patrons because they're part of our Patreon page. And a couple of them are all caught up and they ask for our newer stuff as soon as it comes out. So I've been trying to be on that and pre-release those. We have our page turners. So thank you to all of you. That's those at $5 a month who support us, and our once and future fans that are $20 a month. But we appreciate all of you, and really just all of you for listening in general. But if you are interested in pre-releases, I try to get those out Friday or Saturday ahead of when they come out that next week. So if you're all caught up, might be a good place to go.
The other cool thing about Patreon is that's where you can get some of our short stories. We have a number of abbreviated, smaller episodes that are a little less formal, but I think very fun, and those are available on the Patreon.
And last but not least, let's call out our top 5 new download locations this week. So that's all you out there in Hartford, Connecticut, Lombard, Illinois, Huntsville, Alabama, St. Albert, Canada, and Detroit, Michigan. Thank you for listening, guys. So that'll take me to our episode for today, and I would be surprised if you don't at least recognize the name of this one. Today's story is Peter Pan, but specifically we're going to talk about the novel by JM Barrie, published in 1911. And there have been so many variations of this story, I cannot claim to be familiar with them all. There's plays and movies and shorts and spin-offs. But to be honest, this 1911 publication was entirely new to me. And it's made me really enjoy the newer versions of the story that I do know because I can see the references that I didn't know them before. 2 main surprises for me personally, reading this for the first time. Number 1, it's so sweet with amazing and endearing details. And 2, there's a lot about mothers. So much about mothers. And what an amazing gift it can be to love someone in a motherly way. So get ready for a sweet one. Time for a story.
Peter Pan is the boy who won't grow up. He also can't tell stories or sew his own pockets onto his clothes. When he loses his shadow, he meets a little girl named Wendy, who agrees to sew it back on for him. He persuades her and her brothers to fly back with him to Neverland, where she can serve as a mother to him and the lost boys, much to the irritation of the fairy, Tinkerbell. They have many adventures, but their lives are in danger when they are captured by the fearful Captain Hook. Peter Pan must save them from the pirates, and everyone must decide whether they will stay in Neverland forever or return to the real world where they will inevitably grow up.
I do like that the real world is called the mainland. That was new to me.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Do we need a spoiler?
We're going to spoil this book. We are going to tell the whole thing, but as it's well over 100 years old, I don't know how important a spoiler is.
It's been out there a long time, but I have never read this.
Well, and if I may say, I don't know that I ever would have read this if you didn't recommend it for this show. So thank you very much for introducing to me. I loved this and was really surprised at how much I loved this. I actually didn't know there was a novel. I thought it was just a play. I didn't know this existed, and this has been great getting to read it for the first time.
I knew it was out there, but I kind of thought it was just the play with more words. And to be fair, it came from a listener recommendation. So if this one came from Erica, thank you. We loved it. As an age rating, wonderful for everyone. It's beautiful. However, if you are reading it to your younger children, you might want to read it aloud to them and skip some words that are no longer socially appropriate. It's funny, I looked it up. Like, they call it British imperialism. They're racist. I mean, there's some race names in here about the Redskins and some adult shenanigans with the fairies. So yeah, some things have not stood the test of time, nor should they have. So just be aware of that. But the rest of it is darling.
I agree.
So JM Barrie, the author, he was born in 1860 in a little town in Scotland. I don't know how to say. Kirriemuir? I don't know. Angus, Scotland. I don't know if you looked him up, but Peter Pan, this isn't even the first novel. He came from a novel called The Little White Bird, before the play, before this novel, before anything else. And in that, Peter flies out of his nursery to Kensington Gardens in London, and he lives with the fairies. And in that one, I haven't read it. I would like to. I added it to my list. I think he basically lives with the birds. He can speak to the birds, which is cute because in this story, they're like, oh, and fanciful tales. People always think they can talk to birds. Maybe in that one they can.
Self-referential. I love it. I don't have a ton on the author personally. He's Scottish, which makes me happy. We love the Scots. He was a baronet. Full title, Sir James Matthew Barrie, 1st Baronet. That's always exciting. I love a good title. And then the big thing that I got out of this was what he actually did with the rights to the story. Before he died, he gave the rights of Peter Pan to the Great Ormond Street Hospital for Children. And it's my understanding they still benefit from this and still make money off of it. So what a legacy for him to do.
So if you haven't seen the movie Hook, that's just called Hook. It's 20 or 30 years old with Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman plays Hook. It's wonderful. And I watched it again just because we were doing Peter Pan. There are so many little nods and references to this book, including the Children's Hospital. Mm-hmm. That's part of the story in Hook, where it's dedicated to Wendy, the Children's Hospital. Have you seen that recently?
Not recently, but I know exactly what you're talking about. And one of the fun parts about reading through this novel was thinking about all the versions of Peter Pan I've watched or seen over the course of my life and catching, oh, that's why that was in there. I mean, there were things that never really made sense about some of the versions that now, oh, that's a direct reference to the novel, which is very fun.
Yeah, even down to the name of the big cannons on the Jolly Roger pirate ship. It's called Long Tom. Mm-hmm. That's in Hook. Smee says it. He's like, tomorrow we'll go shoot some Indians with Long Tom. That's what I mean about racial problems. But this is a story of make-believes. I mean, start to finish, as soon as they get to Neverland, it's entirely what a kid would think of in terms of play. Make-believe. And so they do. They kill pirates. But it's make-believe. Peter forgets about them after he kills them because they're pretend. They're make-believe come real, but still make-believe. But I like this. Captain Hook was not in the original play.
Really?
And he's James Hook, right? Captain James Hook. The guy, I don't know if he named him for himself, but that's pretty interesting that the author and Hook are both named James.
I am realizing that just right now.
I read a note that said basically the author didn't think it needed a villain, but for the play, it needed kind of time to change scenes. And so the pirate ship, I think, became kind of a stage prop, ability to change scenes and have some time to do so in the play. So, yeah, Hook came out of it after the fact.
That's very cool. I did enjoy looking into some of the traditions related to the play and the way this show is done. So one of the things is we grew up watching a lot of versions of Peter Pan that were play productions, and Peter Pan was always a girl. Mm-hmm. And I always wondered, why is that the case? Well, it turns out there's an answer. There were stage laws at the time where a young boy couldn't be on stage, and it didn't make sense. A man couldn't pull it off, so the way they got around it was they cast a woman that would look more like a young boy. That actually makes a lot of sense to me and makes sense where that tradition could be carried on in the future. The other thing that's interesting on this one is that traditionally the same actor who plays Captain Hook traditionally plays Mr. Darling, Wendy's father. And I don't know how much to read into that or look into it, but I just think that's fun. I've seen that done in Midsummer Night's Dream a lot, with Oberon and Theseus being the same actor playing the different characters, one in the real world and one in the imaginary world. I enjoy that that's a tradition with this play. And then the last one is something that we've actually addressed before, and this is the way Tinkerbell is done on stage. When we read through The Secret Keeper, Peter Pan was the play that they were performing. And it was the photographer that stepped in because he had the light that could be Tinkerbell. And yeah, they would do it off stage where there would be a light that they would shine into a mirror. And that way they could move the light around the stage and it would flicker and flash and be Tinkerbell. And so some of these fun play traditions I just thought were cool.
Reading this, though, Peter is so much younger than I ever envisioned him, probably because it is often played by an adult. Even in the Disney one, though, they make Peter pretty old for a kid.
In this one, they make it a point that he still has his baby teeth.
Yeah, so he's 4, 5, or 6, somewhere very young, and he never grows past that. He always has his baby teeth.
Yeah, you're right. In my brain, Peter Pan has always been adolescent. I mean, kind of 12 maybe is the way I visualized him, and definitely younger in this novel.
And that I think lends itself to that idea of make-believe, because there's a lot in here that's a little callous, where, oh, we forget our mom now. Or they don't even talk about her. Or he talks about how little kids will not bother to mention very important things. But that is so little kid.
Yeah.
That is exactly how a 5-year-old communicates. Like, wait, what happened today? Even in Hook, when adult Peter goes back to Neverland and he's trying to remember, he looks at his reflection in the water. That boy Peter's 12, 13
older.
maybe. I think more because he is the leader of the Lost Boys. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's easier to see maybe someone a little bit older as the leader, the ringleader. This Peter is not. He is the leader, but he's little. So's Wendy.
Yeah, I think all of them are much younger than I think about them. The Lost Boys as well. And it makes sense for the movies how you would want them to be a little bit older. I mean, who really wants to see a 5-year-old dueling Captain Hook?
Right.
But in the book, it works. Because it is this play world, this Neverland, this imagination thing.
And he has a lot of character and cockiness.
Oh, yeah, that'll come up.
So I have not seen the movie Finding Neverland. Have you seen that one?
No, I have not.
I need to add that one to my list. I think in that one, they talk about the author and the boys that he got to know. And there's quotes about how they inspired a lot of his stories about the Lost Boys. There's also stories about his older brother. And there was a lot of death and sadness in the author's life. But his older brother had died pretty young. And I think in their family, he was preserved. His memory was preserved as forever young. Mm-hmm. You know, this wonderful preservation of memory. And so there is this happiness and sadness with this book, because there is so much that's just fun make-believe. But especially at the end, when some people choose to grow up, you have that difference between those who also choose to stay young.
The bittersweet aspect of this story really jumped out at me. And I think adds a complexity and a depth to this that I was not expecting. I thought this was going to be kind of frivolous, and it is, but it's also complex. And I really enjoyed that.
Well, and to know that the author had true sadness and tragedy in his own life, but can write such wonderful, magical, even funny experiences, but clearly he would know the pain of loss, the pain of growing up, or the pain of someone stuck forever young. Oh, one more thing. I'm sorry. One more. I had to remember that this came out a long time ago. They fly before people flew.
Oh.
So this is pure magic and make-believe as they fly to Neverland. Just a quick note that occurred to me, like, oh my gosh, that would be entirely new as a concept. Like, you dream about it, right? That's what birds do. So the first chapter is called Peter Breaks Through. And there's a lot that I want to read out of this because it's just way more charming than I ever expected. So it starts, all children, except one, grow up.
This follows our tradition of picking books that have just wonderful opening lines. That is a wonderful opening line.
And then it talks about Wendy, not Peter, though. One day when Wendy was 2 years old, she was playing in a garden, and she plucked a flower and ran with it to her mother. I suppose she must have looked rather delightful, for Mrs. Darling put her hand to her heart and cried, "Oh, why can't you remain like this forever?" And that was when Wendy knew that she would grow up someday.
At 2 years old.
2 is the beginning of the end.
I'm getting old enough now that I'm actually having a hard time remembering being a child. I certainly don't remember when I was 2, but I do have vague memories of thinking that, when I turned 18, life was over kind of deal. Once childhood was gone And what a wonderful flavor he paints in just a very few lines.
I remember sitting on the bus and thinking, like, I need to remember this forever. Because what if I don't? These moments are going to slip away from me. So I do think from a very young age, you have some sense of that slipping away of time, that idea that it's not always going to be like this.
Mm-hmm. From Wendy, we move on to the Darling family. Darling is the last name, which is great, too. Mr. Darling and Mrs. Darling, and we learn that Mrs. Darling is a catch, that somehow Mr. Darling managed to sneak in ahead of the other boys in order to win her.
It tells us how. He took a cab and nipped in first, and so he got her. It's so cute. It says he got all of her except the innermost box, because she's described as like a nested box where you just find more and more as you open them up, you learn more about her. So he got all of her except the innermost box and the kiss. It says he never knew about the box, and in time he gave up trying for the kiss. She has a kiss on the corner of her mouth that no one can get. It's just always there. Her kids come and try to get it. No, it's not for them. It just lives on her mouth that way. Just the description of their mother and how much they love their mother is beautiful.
It goes through the birth of the children.
And how expensive they are.
Yeah. Wendy is bored, and there's a line something to the fact that for a week or two after Wendy came in, it was doubtful whether they would be able to keep her, as she was another mouth to feed. Mr. Darling is calculating costs, how much she's going to be. But Mrs. Darling can talk him down, and Wendy sticks around, as do her siblings, John and Michael, and they are born in that order. But each time, Mr. Darling is very concerned that they can afford another one.
It says at last Wendy just got through. John and Michael had even a narrower squeak, but both were kept. And now we know that they don't have a lot of money, but Mr. Darling has his social position. Mm-hmm. He's very aware of his social stature. So they need a nurse, but all they can afford is a Newfoundland dog.
Nana.
Nana.
She is amazing. She is incredible. It's like Mary Poppins in fur. She is just outstanding as a nurse, but Mr. Darling is concerned that the neighbors might be talking about them.
Well, it says she proved to be quite a treasure of a nurse, and she knows when a cough is a thing to have no patience with and when it needs stalking around your throat. And she doesn't believe in germs, that newfangled idea. She likes old-fashioned treatments. It's really cute when they go to school, the kids go to school. There's a room where other nurses go wait. And it says the only difference is that the people nurses sit on the benches and Anna lies on the floor. But that's the only difference. She's amazing.
The other one who is consistently amazing is Mrs. Darling. You said there's a lot of mother in this book. She's incredible. And this first exchange where we learn about Peter Pan just charmed me no end. Mrs. Darling first heard of Peter when she was tidying up her children's minds. It is the nightly custom of every good mother after her children are asleep to rummage in their minds and put things straight for the next morning, repacking into their proper places the many articles that have wandered during the day. That mental image is fantastic, of sorting through a child's thoughts, getting rid of the bad ones, realigning the important ones, cleaning up a mind like you would clean up their room. Is a beautiful, beautiful image.
There's a lot of this fourth wall address in this where comments out to us, the reader. I mean, you can feel the aspect of a play about it, where there's comments on what's happening, but it says, if you could keep awake, but of course you can't. You would see your own mother doing this. It is quite like tidying up drawers. And I'm skipping some in here, but it says, when you wake in the morning, the naughtiness and evil passions with which you went to bed have been folded up small and placed at the bottom of your mind. And on the top, beautifully aired, are spread out your prettier thoughts, ready for you to put on. Lovely description of a sweet mother.
Yes. Within these thoughts, we are introduced to the Neverlands. Plural. Neverlands. This is the dream world. This is what each of the three children, where their mind goes when they sleep. And there's some consistencies and there's some inconsistencies. There are things like lagoons and flamingos. Both the boys want lagoons and flamingos. but one of them, the flamingos, are flying over the lagoon, and the other, the lagoon, is flying over the flamingos. So funny turns of phrase like that. This is where one of the boys wants to live in a wigwam. So this is where the Native American references start coming in right away. And one of the things that I did have to remind myself is that this is not an American book. As Americans, we've grown up in the land of the Native Americans. And so our relationship is different. These boys aren't really playing cowboys and Indians like we did growing up. They're just fascinated by Indians. And so there's something about that, yeah, there's some in here that's questionable. But on another level, I can see where the kids would just be so excited to live in a wigwam.
Well, John also wants to be a pirate. I mean, you get the sense of the Neverland that they build together because it says there's family characteristics about Neverlands. Like they're kind of related. Like one has the same nose as the other one, but it's always more or less of an island. And London, where the Darlings live, that's the mainland.
Mm-hmm. We're still talking about the mother going through her children's minds, and it says, occasionally in her travels through her children's minds, Mrs. Darling found things she could not understand, and of these, quite the most perplexing was the word Peter.
She doesn't know Peter. Who's Peter? But the name stood out in bolder letters than any of the other words, and as Mrs. Darling gazed, she felt that it had an oddly cocky appearance. And Wendy agrees. Yes, he is rather cocky.
Yeah, doesn't even try to deny it. It's just, that is a defining characteristic of Peter Pan.
At first, Mrs. Darling did not know who Peter is, but after thinking back into her childhood, she just remembered a Peter Pan who was said to live with the fairies. There were odd stories about him, as that when children died, he went part of the way with them, so they should not be frightened. She had believed in him at the time, but now that she was married and full of sense, she quite doubted whether there was any such person.
But there are things that are happening in the nursery. It's important to know the nursery is not a ground floor room. It is up in the air. I don't know what story it is, but to the children, it is huge off the ground.
3 floors.
All of a sudden, leaves start showing up on the nursery floor. And nobody can explain where these come from. Well, I take that back. The grown-ups can't explain where these come from, but the children know, oh yeah, that's Peter.
And they said, I think he comes in by the window. She's like, we're 3 floors up. There's no way. She's like, oh, he flies. These are just common knowledge to these kids. And the mom asks, like, have you met him? Well, no, not really, but he's in my dreams. And the mother has heard the name, seen the name in their minds. Peter. I love this description of kids, though. I'm sorry to read so much, but I love it. Children have the strangest adventures without being troubled by them. For instance, they may remember to mention, a week after the event happened, that when they were in the wood, they had met their dead father and had a game with him. It was in this casual way that Wendy one morning makes this revelation about Peter Pan coming in the window. That's shocking.
It is. But the shocking events do not stop because Mother is in the nursery. It's late at night. She started up with a cry and saw the boy. She knew at once that he was Peter Pan. If you or I or Wendy had been there, we should have seen that he was very like Mrs. Darling's kiss. He was a lovely boy, clad in skeleton leaves and the juices that ooze out of trees. But the most entrancing thing about him was that he had all his first teeth. When he saw she was grown up, he gnashed the little pearls at her.
First she screams because this little boy appears through the window. And then she screams because he thinks he fell out the window and he's a little boy.
Nana is made of sterner stuff. The Newfoundland dog nurse jumps after him, snaps at him, and Mrs. Darling notices, one, when she looks out the window, that there's no boy down on the ground, but two, Nana seems to have something in her teeth.
It proved to be the boy's shadow. Nana has snapped off his shadow, and they don't know where to put it. At first they hang it up, but it looks untidy.
Yeah, she doesn't want the neighbors to see like their linen just out there.
And she doesn't want to trouble the husband. I mean, he worries about expenses a lot. So she puts it in a drawer.
And that's where it stays for a little while. And then he does such a great job writing this because there's these fun kind of episodes of foreshadowing. So the next thing that happens is we actually see the grown-ups, Nana, Mr. and Mrs. Darling, all competing over the blame of whose fault it is. We don't really know. Nothing of fault has occurred yet, but they are all going at each other, trying to take the most blame. And then we start learning what happened.
On that never to be forgotten Friday. Of course, it was a Friday. I don't know what he has against Fridays.
I love Fridays.
I know.
I don't know.
Mr. Darling here, who's had some ego and some worry about expenses, he too says, I am completely responsible. And Nana doesn't speak. That would be absurd. But she conveys much with the look in her eyes that no, it was all her fault.
The switch back in time after they have this little discussion is the grown-up Darlings, well, Mr. and Mrs. Darling, not Nana, have been invited out to dinner. Not very far, just down the street. This is after the kids are supposed to be in bed, and they're planning to go to this dinner party. But there's an argument with the youngest child, Michael. Michael doesn't want to take his medicine. As an aside, what is the deal with medicine in these British books? It seems like everyone is taking some cordial. Again, I'm thinking Mary Poppins and this, that somehow just, I guess, is their version of vitamins.
I mean, you're the doctor.
Yeah, that's why it doesn't make sense to me. So, but Michael does not like to take his medicine.
I mean, I want some magic elixir that would keep me healthy. I'd take that. But no, the father comes in, and initially Mr. Darling is upset himself because he cannot tie his tie. And he comes in irate in a storm. And Mrs. Darling is used to this, and she ties it around his neck, and then he has a romp with the boys. And I mean, he is sweet as well. He's not just cocky. For lack of a better word. But the father is like, Michael, you must take your medicine. And the kids help out, the older two. They're like, well, Dad takes his medicine. He's got medicine he has to take. And Mr. Darling says, oh, it's terrible stuff. And they're like, oh, you can take yours when Michael takes his.
They've got ideas. But Mr. Darling has hid his medicine, so he didn't have to take it. But children are so observant. And Wendy's like, oh, I know where it is. And she goes and brings it to the father so he can take his medicine. He does not want to do that. He is reaching for any excuse to not do this. And so he thinks, I'll make a joke. I will pour it in Nana's bowl, and this will be hilarious.
She'll
and
think it's milk.
I won't have to take it. Nana is not fooled for a moment and wants nothing to do with this medicine in the bowl. But now Mr. Darling is losing face in front of his children, in front of his family, and he's always had questions about Nana being a nurse in the house. And so this effrontery of her revealing that she knows this medicine and she's not going to drink it, this finally makes him say, you know what? I'm going to take her to the kennel. And he does.
She's literally in the doghouse for something she did not do.
No, not her fault at all.
Her face reproaches him, very much so.
This chapter does not reflect well on Mr. Darling.
It does not, but I think that's kind of the point because they do these flash forwards where he says, that was our last romp, it's all my fault. He does have guilt for whatever it is that happens. And Nana's not in the nursery that night. And Mr. and Mrs. Darling head out to this party, but Nana's barking. It says the kids could hear Nana barking. And John whimpered, it's because she's chaining her up in the yard. But Wendy was wiser. She says, that is not Nana's unhappy bark. That is her bark when she smells danger. Wendy calls it. Something's going to happen here. But the Darlings go out to dinner.
We already have talked about how just sweet this book is. And I promise I won't read them all. But there's a couple things at the end of this chapter that I thought were beautiful. And again, I was charmed by them. So the first one is Michael is kind of worried that the parents are leaving and already half asleep. He says, can anything harm us, Mother, after the night lights are lit? Because they have night lights in their room. Nothing, precious, she said. They are the eyes a mother leaves behind her to guard her children. That's just a beautiful line. And then these next chapters, and I won't read the whole thing, but it starts to talk about the stars. The stars that are twinkling up above, and they can't intervene, but they can watch. And it talks about how the twinkling of the stars, it says winking is the star language. And the little ones will still wander around. So it explains shooting stars and things. And at the very end of this chapter, the smallest of all the stars in the Milky Way screamed out, now, Peter.
I want to comment on the nightlights because I found that charming. Earlier in this chapter, they're talking about their Neverland, John and Michael, Wendy's Neverland, and the different parts of it. And Wendy has a wolf whelp that is her best friend and follows her around. But it says in the minutes right before sleep, when the nursery gets dark, Neverland turns from this wonderful, beautiful, amazing imagination thing to creepy. It's scary. They get scared. And that is why we have nightlights. But here the stars blow out their nightlights. Now, Peter.
Now, Peter, it's your time.
Remember, he has lost his shadow. And to make the parents sound a little bit better, it's like across the road.
Yeah, they're not abandoning their children.
Their dinner's across the street.
There's also a nurse in the house at the a maid in the house on the lower levels. Nana is still outside, and they're on the 3rd floor. So they are secure. They are safe. Well, now when you're dealing with Peter Pan and a fairy, but they should be safe.
So the nightlights show up first and says, they were awfully nice little nightlights. Those are the eyes that a mother leaves behind to protect her kids. And one cannot help wishing that they could have kept awake to see Peter. But Wendy's light blinked and gave such a yawn that the other 2 yawned also. And before they could close their mouths, all the 3 went out. And then there's another light, a flashing light. It says 1,000 times brighter than any of the nightlights. And it's flashing across the room.
It was a girl called Tinkerbell, exquisitely gowned in a skeleton leaf cut low and square, through which her figure could be seen to the best advantage. She was slightly inclined to embonpoint. Jody, did you have to look up this word? Because I did.
I figured you'd look it up. I didn't.
So parents, if you're reading this to your children, this is one of those first words that you might need to explain away or skip. Embonpoint refers to the fleshy parts of the female body.
Oh. So she's curvy.
She is curvy and apparently proud of it.
A moment after the fairy's entrance, the window was blown open by the breathing of the little stars, and Peter dropped in. It says his hand was still messy with fairy dust. And he's looking for Tinkerbell. Where are you? So she's hanging out in a jug. She'd never been in a jug before.
Yeah, she liked it.
Get out of that jug. They're looking for his shadow.
She finally, though, is able to see it. And she says, well, it's in the box. And they don't really know what they mean by the box, but it's the dresser. This is where it was locked up. And so he is able to find it. And oh, delight, he has his shadow now. He just needs to get it stuck back on. Well, he's got an idea. Peter's always got an idea. He's going to use soap. And the soap will get the shadow to stick to his feet. It does not work.
Peter sits on the floor and he cries. And his crying wakes up Wendy. She sits up and she says, the line from the play.
The line from all the plays.
Boy, why are you crying? It says Peter could be exceedingly polite. He's not always. But he bows to her. She bows back. And he asks her name. What's your Wendy, Moira, Angela, darling? What is your name? Peter Pan. I like this back and forth about names. These are little kids. Wendy is very proud of her name. Wendy, Moira, Angela, darling. Peter Pan seems a little short.
He felt for the first time that it was a shortish name.
And she asks where he lives. Second to the right and then straight on till morning. What a funny address. He feels belittled here. But Wendy does like to host, so she tries to be more positive in her comments. She asks him about his address, like, don't you get any letters? Not from your mother? He's like, no, I don't have a mother. And not only had he no mother, but he had not the slightest desire to have one. He thought them very overrated persons. Wendy, however, felt at once that she was in the presence of a tragedy. And she thinks, oh, no wonder you were crying.
Yeah, obviously that's the reason. Wendy instantly goes into mother mode here. And you can just picture a little girl taking care of a doll. I mean, that's where my brain goes with this. And she's got a solution for it. She is so much more practical than Peter. Soap, that's never going to work. I will sew your shadow on.
And he asks, what's that? She says, you're dreadfully ignorant. And they have a quibble. No, I'm not. Like little kids do. You know, I remember when I was a kid, you could get a doll that was your same size.
Oh, yeah.
I never got one, but like that was the dream, right? A doll that's your same size. That's what these are.
Basically.
But she says, I might hurt a little if I sew it onto your foot. And Peter says, oh, I shan't cry, who was already of the opinion that he had never cried in his life. His memory for things is non-existent.
And everything he believes it with all of him. It is immediately reality to his mind, what he believes at that moment. I enjoy that when she sews it on, it's a little bit creased. The shadow is wrinkly, and she thinks, oh, I should have ironed it before sewing it on. But Peter's happy with it. He's got his shadow back.
He does not care about wrinkles. But he says, how clever I am. And he's crowing the cleverness of me. Narrator says, it is humiliating to have to confess that this conceit of Peter was one of his most fascinating qualities. To put it with brutal frankness, there never was a cockier boy. That's why they have him crow.
Yeah, it bears out, and it just fits his personality, this little boy who is so proud of himself. But he's not truly mean either. He sees that this bothers Wendy, and he says, Wendy, don't withdraw. I can't help crowing, Wendy, when I'm pleased with myself. He can also recognize her on some level. I mean, he can forget about her pretty quickly, too, but he can recognize her when she's sad.
It's entirely both. Like a little guy, he's completely thoughtless and then completely sweet and endearing. Back and forth.
Which leads us right into this next whole passage where there are so many kisses given and received.
She said she would give him a kiss if he liked, but Peter didn't know what that meant, and he held out his hand expectantly. She's like, don't you know what a kiss is? I will once you give one to me. And that's when she hands him the thimble.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, okay, now I'll give you a kiss. And it says Wendy makes a fool of herself because she puts her lips out like she's going to be kissed. And he hands her, what is it, a button?
It's an acorn button. It is a button, but it's an acorn.
And here's one of those foreshadowings for future reference. It says, it was lucky that she put it on a chain around her neck, for afterwards it was to save her life. Whoa, what?
What just happened? After that, Wendy, who is trying to be polite and follow social customs, asks him his age. He says, well, I don't know, but I'm quite young. And we learn here that he ran away when he was born. This was a young boy.
I want always to be a little boy and to have fun. So here's the reference to that first novel, The Little White Bird. I ran away to Kensington Gardens and lived a long, long time among the fairies. It's referencing his own story.
And this has become classic, but you can see why this has become classic, because it's beautiful, because she asks him about fairies. And he says, you see, Wendy, when the first baby laughed for the first time, its laugh broke into 1,000 pieces, and they all went skipping about, and that was the beginning of fairies.
It said that she looks at Peter with intense admiration, and he assumes it's because he ran away. How cool of him to do. No, it's because he knows about fairies. And so she's just eating this up, this information about fairies and where they come from. He knows so much more than her about these things of her imagination.
Of course, there is a fairy in the room, but it's still stuck in the drawer. After it got the shadow out, Tinkerbell is still stuck in the drawer, and Tinkerbell does not like Wendy. That is a recurring motif.
And so Wendy can just hear a tinkle of bells, and he says, well, that's the fairy language. And the sound came from the chest of drawers, and Peter made a merry face. No one could ever look quite so merry as Peter, and the loveliest of gurgles was his laugh. He had his first laugh still. That laugh that babies have that creates fairies when it breaks, Peter still has his. I love that.
Mm-hmm. She asks him, though, if you don't live in Kensington Gardens now, Peter, sometimes I do still, but where do you live mostly now? Peter, with the Lost Boys. Wendy, who are they? They're the children who fall out of their perambulators when the nurse is looking the other way. If they are not claimed in 7 days, they are sent far away to the Neverland to defray expenses. I'm captain.
That is very specific.
A perambulator is a stroller, everyone.
Why 7 days? That must be true of some kind of lost and found thing. If you lose something on the street, you have 7 days to claim it.
Must be. But I enjoy that they have to leave to defray expenses. It's a cost thing. I mean, this takes us back to Mr. Darling.
Wendy is quite pleased how nice Peter is to girls, because he talks about how girls are worth way more than boys, and they're lonely because they don't have any girls. It's all lost boys. And she's like, well, my brother's so mean about girls. And she's like, you know what? I think I'll give you a kiss. No, a thimble. Because he already thinks a kiss is the thimble, but she wants to give him a real kiss. And so she says, I don't mean a kiss. I mean a thimble. What's that? It's like this. And she kissed him. Funny, said Peter gravely. I didn't say that gravely. Funny, said Peter gravely. Funny, said Peter gravely. Now shall I give you a thimble? If you wish to. But this time Wendy doesn't make a fool of herself. She keeps her head still.
She's learned.
Peter thimbled her, and almost immediately she screams. Yes, what is it? Tinkerbell comes up and pinches her. Tinkerbell is very jealous.
Yes. I do think we should pause and just appreciate the fact that thimble gets used as a verb.
For kissing.
That's great.
I thimbled her.
You have been thimbled.
So in the Robin Williams hook, Tinkerbell pushes him away and says, you silly ass, and then kicks him out, kicks Peter out. Tinkerbell calls Peter a silly ass all the time in this, constantly.
Remember, in England, that means a donkey.
Right.
So different meaning of the word. But yeah, Wendy and Tinkerbell and their relationship is hilarious. And that comes through in a lot of the later versions of the story. We do learn here kind of why Peter has been hanging around, though. And it turns out he likes stories. He was hearing a story about this girl with a glass slipper. He doesn't know the end of it. But Wendy knows the end of it. So Peter doesn't have a mother to tell him stories. So he's been coming to listen so he can tell them to the Lost Boys. And Wendy knows stories and tells him that she knows stories.
Says none of the Lost Boys know any stories. They didn't have anybody to tell them stories. It's funny because they live in story and they have all these adventures. Peter's never really willing to tell much of his adventures. He doesn't tell stories. He acts in them. He's a major player. But yeah, he just wants someone to tell them stories. And he invites Wendy to come with it. He gets a little greedy once he learns that she knows some stories. He's like, oh. So he tries to entice her. It does say it's Wendy's fault because she brought it up first.
That's right. Peter is a little boy of action, though.
He tempts her. He's like, well, there's mermaids.
Yeah. I love that the mermaids are the hook. The mermaids and the ability for her to sew pockets for the Lost Boys. That's the attractive part for her. To
fly on the wind's back.
And to fly on the wind's back. That would tempt me. That is fantastic. But Wendy is not going to go on her own. And so Peter fairly quickly wakes up Michael and John. He kicks them out of bed.
Peter Pan has come and he is to teach us to fly. And Nana this whole time is barking, barking, barking. She knows somebody's in the nursery and she's not there to protect the kids. And it's funny, they hide. Nana convinces the maid, Liza is her name, to go up to the nursery. Liza's annoyed, but okay. Her and Nana go up to the nursery and the kids hide behind the curtains in such a kid way that they do pretend sleep breathing. Michael does it so well, they almost get caught. And Nana gets put back down in the doghouse.
And it is after this that the classic scene where the boys and Wendy learn to fly comes up. This is where the fairy dust and the thinking happy thoughts all go together. And I love some of the phrases. The first line that John lets out is, "Oh, ripping," when he's able to fly. I think that needs to make a comeback.
Oh, ripping.
Oh, ripping.
You just think lovely, wonderful thoughts, and they lift you up in the air. Peter's not a great teacher. He's pretty impatient. But with the help of the fairy dust, they figure it out. I like from the Disney one, Michael, the little guy, he says he flewed. That's from this. That's from this book. He flewed. Michael was ready. He wanted to see how long it took him to do 1 billion miles.
Well, they might make it that distance. Again, they're enchanted by the idea of mermaids, and then they hear about pirates. As we said, John is into pirates. and they all decide it's time to go. Meanwhile, as we said, Mr. and Mrs. Darling aren't that far away, and they can hear Nana barking. And Nana keeps barking, and she ends up getting them to leave their party and to come home to check on the children. And why is Nana barking? And this chapter ends with the line, Mr. and Mrs. Darling and Nana rushed into the nursery. Too late. The birds were flown.
But this is a lovely kid's book. So it also says, I solemnly promise that it will all come right in the end. So be comforted. So this is a classic line. Second to the right and straight on till morning.
That, Peter had told Wendy, was the way to the Neverland. But even birds carrying maps and consulting them at windy corners could not have cited it with these instructions. Peter, you see, just said anything that came into his head. This blew me away. That's not actually how you get there. It's just a line, Peter said.
I felt lied to. All right. Like, yes. How are we to get there?
Well, and it also makes me wonder, I guess in my head, Neverland must have been another planet. Because it's second star to the right and straight on till morning. You're going out into the stars. But here, they're more going over the ocean than anything else. And they do have a long flight. More and more, we start to see aspects of Peter's character. One, he's amazing. He can fly faster than all of them. He's so quick. And when he thinks about it, he's willing to take care of them. They need to eat while they're flying, and the way they do it is Peter snags food from birds' beaks. The birds are carrying food, and he steals it, and that's how they eat. But the other thing that we see is that he is a little bit changeable, because if the boys, for example, fall asleep while they're flying, they start tumbling to the water. Fortunately, Peter always saves them just in time, but there's some concern that he won't just think it's funny to have them fall in the water and that he may not save them. So there's a dangerous aspect to Peter Pan as well as the jollity of him.
Well, it has to be a game. If it's not a game, it's not worth doing. So they play follow the leader, and Peter can like bump the tops of sharks, but they're not able to do that, and he thinks that's funny. And it says sometimes he even forgets them because he'll dart off. It says he comes back with, mermaid scales on him, but he won't tell them where he was. He doesn't tell stories, but he does play games. But Wendy is sure that he doesn't always recognize her. And they get a little nervous because this trip is going a long ways away. And if Peter just goes off and doesn't come back again, they don't know how to get anywhere. And John's like, don't worry, the world's round. We'll just keep going and end up back in London.
He's got a plan.
Wendy's concerned about that. I think rightfully so. And it does say that Peter had forgotten to show them how to stop. They don't know how to stop flying. I like the actual way you get to Neverland is included here. It says after many moons, they did actually reach it. And what is more, they had been going pretty straight all the time. Not perhaps so much owing to the guidance of Peter or Tinkerbell as because the island, the Neverland, was looking for them. It is only thus that anyone may sight those magic shores.
And when they get to the magic shores as they're flying, they see everything that they had been dreaming of. They see lagoons, they see flamingos, they see a wolf, when the pups, the pet wolf of Wendy. They see the wigwams, and they see pirates. And this is our first introduction as well into the pirates. And you mentioned Long Tom, the cannon on the pirate ship.
They learn of Long Tom when it erupts around them.
Yeah, it's not a great moment.
Nobody gets hurt, but Peter goes off flying. I think, Tinkerbell is in a hat. I forget why. Why is Tinkerbell in the hat?
I think because she's going to give their location away.
She's bright.
She's a light. And so it has to be hidden in the hat or the pirates will see them and shoot them. That's
right. So she's hidden in the hat. And unfortunately for Wendy, she's carrying the hat when they are blown away by the winds of this cannonball.
So Wendy is separated from the group. She is blown way away and trouble ensues. we get an introduction to the names of the pirates, and like every pirate you've heard of gets mentioned. They talk about, Blackbeard and this was the bosun of this other pirate and things like that. We get names for most of the pirates, and a lot of those names do show up in a lot of the movies and a lot of the stories that get told about this later.
I like how Peter talks about Captain Hook, though. The only one whom Barbecue was afraid. And the boys, John and Michael, are like, what's he like? Is he big? Peter's like, not as big as he was. I cut off his right hand. And they're like, you? He's like, yeah, me. And they're like, oh, we didn't mean to be disrespectful. Just who would think it of this little boy? He cut off Captain Hook's hand, but he replaced it with an iron claw. It says he had an iron hook instead of a right hand, and he claws with it.
He is a great character. We'll talk about him much more, but I do love Captain Hook as a character. He's really well done.
I like Peter. He makes it very clear, though. There is one thing that every boy who serves under me has to promise, and so must you. It is this. If we meet Hook in open fight, you must leave him to me.
They don't hesitate on that at all. Oh, sure.
They promised.
Yeah, you can have him. Sorry, you got him.
The grandeur of this kid's play. He is mine.
And so Wendy, though, like I say, was blown upwards, it says, with no companion but Tinkerbell. And what follows is a pretty funny discourse on Tinkerbell. Tink was not all bad, or rather, she was all bad just now. But on the other hand, sometimes she was all good. Fairies have to be one thing or the other because being so small, they unfortunately have room for one feeling at a time. They are, however, allowed to change, only it must be a complete change. At present, she was full of jealousy of Wendy. And it says Wendy is calling out. Nobody else is around her because she's been blown off course. And it says she followed Tink to her doom.
End of chapter.
End of chapter.
Scene change. It is a lot like a play. A lot of it is. But this one's called The Island Come True. And Peter Pan is back. It's funny because this Neverland seems custom for Wendy, John, and Michael. Like they imagine so much of it, but there's other things too. This is Peter's Neverland. I mean, he is kind of the king and captain of it. And it says that Neverland is waking up. It used a word I had never heard, pluperfect.
Oh, yeah.
You knew what that meant.
Yes, but only because of my study of Latin and Greek.
We ought to use the pluperfect and say wakened, but woke is better and was always used by Peter. What is pluperfect?
Let's start with perfect. These are tenses of verbs. The perfect tense applies to something in the past. I woke up. But it means I woke up completely and I'm not waking up now. Pluperfect refers to more than perfect. So it's I had already woke up. It is not only something done in the past, but something completed in the past before. So this is the pluperfect tense. We don't do it really well in English, but a lot of other languages have specific verb forms for it.
See, I learn things all the time doing this podcast, brother. Here, Neverland is seething with life. I like that. This world is round too, this island. Because at first you have the Lost Boys. They're looking for Peter. You can feel him coming back. Behind the Lost Boys, you have the Indians. They're looking for the Lost Boys. Oh, there's a lot of animosity between these groups. And behind the Indians are the pirates.
Yeah.
And they're just looking for anybody to kill.
Yeah, they don't like anyone.
But they keep going around and around and around. So none of them know that the others are behind them. Remember, this is make-believe. This is a game. Peter doesn't do anything that's not a game. All of Neverland is a game.
The Lost Boys have personality. I mean, we go over the names of the pirates and things like that, but they're kind of interchangeable with the exception of Captain Hook and like Smee, the first mate. With the Lost Boys, though, they all have personality, and I think the most personality is Toodles.
Yeah, there are 6 Lost Boys.
Toodles, Nibs, Slightly, Curly, and the twins.
They do give a bit of a character to each of them. Toodles is sweet, honestly. It says he's always missing out, though. He'll like go around the corner and come back, and they'll be cleaning up the blood from some battle. Like he missed it.
And it's always the blood from the battle. I mean, this is big stakes.
Yeah, there's one, what's his name? Sweetly. Slightly, who he's got something to say on every subject. I feel like we all know that kid.
He is the most conceited of the boys, is the line.
Who's not Peter?
Yeah. Well, Peter is the alpha across the board.
That's true. Curly is fourth. He is a pickle. So that means he gets in trouble. So when things are wrong, he just steps forward like it's his fault, even if it isn't. He's just so used to being in trouble. And the twins are funny. They're not discernible. And Peter can't be expected to work that hard. So they're just both called twins.
That's
you
right.
two, twins.
And even if he gets one wrong, they just switch because Peter's obviously right. They're not going to argue with him about it. So if they're twin A, yeah, I'm twin A.
So the pirates do sing as they go, which really helps people know when they're coming.
Oh, totally.
That's part of the rules, I think, of Neverland. Avast belay, yo-ho, heave to, a pirating we go. It's so piratey, quintessential pirateness.
A more villainous looking lot never hung in a row on execution dock. The pirates are bad news, and the baddest of them all is the captain, Hook.
He lay at his ease in a rough chariot drawn and propelled by his men, and instead of a right hand, he had the iron hook, with which ever and anon he encouraged them to increase their pace. Calls them dogs all the time.
There is one more group, even though it's a single thing. So we've talked about the Lost Boys, we talked about the Indians, we talked about the pirates. There is also a crocodile. A crocodile is pacing along behind all of this, and we'll talk more about the crocodile.
Well, I didn't even mention the beasts.
Oh, it's true.
Neverland is full. It says it's crammed, packed, full of things and things happening. It's a very exciting place.
Well, and it's so offhand the way he does it. So when he's talking about Captain Hook and the pirates, he literally uses the line, "Let us now kill a pirate," to show Hook's method. I mean, this is the way he demonstrates the viciousness of Captain Hook. Captain Hook just walks by one of his pirate buddies and just cuts him with his hook. And this is just what he does. But again, there's this flippancy about it, this make-believe. Well, clearly pirates just kill each other. That's not a problem. And this establishes Captain Hook as the dangerous leader that he is.
Another reference to the Robin Williams hook, because I just really like this. In his mouth, Captain Hook's mouth, he had a holder of his own contrivance, which enabled him to smoke 2 cigars at once. That's in the movie.
That would make you so sick.
The Lost Boys, like I said, are looking for Peter, but they can hear the pirate song behind them, and they disappear. It says 6 of them, 7 of them? Must be 6. All 6 of them scatter. They each have a hollow tree. These trees are important. It takes them to their underground home.
Captain Hook stops one of his pirates from shooting at the boys because he knows that Tiger Lily and the Indians are around and he doesn't want to be scalped. And also, he's not trying to just get one of the boys. He's trying to find out where they live, and he's trying to get, above all, Peter Pan, who he hates with a special passion.
I don't think he cares about any of the other boys. The only reason he cares is to get to Peter.
And it says here why. Most of all, Hook was saying passionately, "I want their captain, Peter Pan. 'Twas he cut off my arm." He brandished the hook threateningly. "I've waited long to shake his hand with this. Oh, I'll tear him."
So Smee, if you haven't seen the movies or the plays and I'm familiar, Smee is great. He's his bosun, actually, on the boat. But he's also just his assistant, manservant, and comforter.
And Smee is great in every version of the story. I'm thinking of the Disney cartoon. I love the Smee in the Disney cartoon. But my favorite has to be Hook. In so many ways, Hook was a great movie.
It's fantastic.
And Smee is Bob Hoskins. And Bob Hoskins is one of my favorite actors of all time. And he nails that role. He's so good.
Why is Bob Hoskins one of your favorite actors?
Oh, Bob Hoskins is wonderful. Not only is Smee, but he is also Eddie Valiant in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, as well as many other roles. I'm just always impressed by his versatility.
Very diverse.
I first saw him in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. He's British. He does not sound British in that movie. His ability to flip between accents, just an incredible actor, and he is so good as Smee.
He is excellent. And it's me here because Hook is like, oh, he gave me this hook. He's like, and yet I often heard you say that that hook was worth a score of hands for combing the hair and other homely uses. And here Captain's like, if I was a mother, I would pray to have my children born with this, the hook, instead of that, casting a look of pride upon his iron hand. I'm glad he's not a mother.
Well, for so many reasons. But just having the hook, again, he loves his hook, but there was another problem, and that's that when Peter cut off his hand, he flung it to that crocodile. And Smee says, I've often noticed your strange dread of crocodiles. Not of crocodiles, Hook corrected him, but of that one crocodile. He lowered his voice. It liked my arm so much, Smee, that it has followed me ever since, from sea to sea and from land to land, licking its lips for the rest of me. In a way, says Smee, it's sort of a compliment.
Only Smee could say that to Captain Hook.
Right.
And Hook, he says, I want Peter Pan, who first gave the brute its taste for me. He's being singularly hunted by this crocodile.
Fortunately, though, he does have some warning. That crocodile would have had me before this, but by a lucky chance, it swallowed a clock, which goes tick-tock inside it. And so before it can reach me, I hear the tick and bolt. So that's convenient.
But it's me again. He says some hard truths. Someday that clock will run down and then he'll get you. And Hook's like, that is my fear. Yeah. I think it's around here that they sit on a mushroom. The mushrooms in Neverland are a thing. They're beautiful colors, quite large, like a stool. This one is hot.
I love his line. Odds bobs, hammer and tongs, I'm burning. We need to bring odds bobs back too.
I do like that one, yeah. But they peel up this mushroom. It's a chimney. They find the Lost Boys' home. This is where Peter Pan lives when he's not out adventuring and gaming.
Hook immediately has a plan, how he's going to take advantage of this. What else would work but a poison cake? He's going to bring a poison cake, and the boys will eat it and they will die. He's a schemer, is that Hook?
With green sugar on it. It's very specific. And Smee has nothing hard to say on this. Great idea.
Yeah, way to go, boss.
Ripping plan.
Well, this induces them to sing again. I mean, they're pirates. Avast belay when I appear, by fear they're overtook. None's left upon your bones when you have shaken claws with Cook. And then they hear ticking. Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. And Hook gets out of there because the crocodile is coming, but he has found the home of the Lost Boys.
And the boys rush up because they hear things going on, and they're really unafraid of danger.
Yeah.
Make-believe has its positives. But Nibs, one of the boys, comes rushing up and says, oh, there's lions and beasts coming after this. And they're like, oh, no, what do we do? What would Peter do?
What would Peter do?
Clearly, he would bend over and look at the animals from between his legs.
Works every time.
It really did.
They never expect it.
I was shocked. It actually worked. It says the next moment is the long one while you're looking between your legs. But victory came quickly, for as the boys advanced upon the animals in this terrible attitude, the wolves dropped their tails and fled.
And then after this, they see another animal, or what they think is an animal, actually a bird. I have seen a wonderfuler thing, he cried as they gathered around him eagerly. A great white bird. It is flying this way. And they hear the bird saying, poor Wendy. So this is obviously a Wendy bird.
Yeah, slightly. The guy who has something to say on every subject is like, oh, I've heard of Wendy birds. And Tinkerbell yells to the boys, Peter wants you to shoot the Wendy. Toodles is an obliging character and wants to do what's right.
And he had his bow and arrow with him. The other boys had to go down to get their bows, but Toodles had it with him already.
He yells, out of the way, Tink, and then fires, and Wendy flutters to the ground with an arrow in her breast.
Again, to comfort everyone, this is a children's tale, and everything works out. Wendy will be okay. Let's proceed.
High drama, but it's all make-believe. It says, foolish Toodles was standing like a conqueror over Wendy's body when the other boys sprang armed from their trees. You are too late, he cried proudly. I have shot the Wendy. Peter will be so pleased with me.
Yeah, he's so excited about how pleased Peter will be with him because it was a good shot. But it doesn't take long for him to realize that Peter is not going to be pleased with him.
They realize it's a lady, a girl. They don't have girls there to us, but they figure that it's a lady to take care of us at last. And you have killed her. I mean, they turn the blame quickly.
Oh, right away.
These are little boys.
Yeah.
That seems accurate.
And then they hear Peter crow, because this is how he arrives. Presentation. He crows, and he's there. They all salute him, but there is sadness.
I love Toodles. It says his face was very white, but there was a dignity about him now that had never been there before. I did it, he said, reflecting. When ladies used to come to me in my dreams, I said, pretty mother, pretty mother. But when at last she really came, I shot her.
Yeah, he steps up. Toodles is a brick. He is awesome.
That's devastating.
He admits it. He doesn't hide it. He takes it. Oh, dastard hand, Peter said, and he raised the arrow to use it as a dagger. Toodles did not flinch. He bared his breast. Strike, Peter, he said firmly. Strike true. What a noble little boy.
Again, it reminds me of stories of make-believe. Like they're playing at nobility and honor and courage and chivalry here. And Toodle, just devastating that he's been dreaming of a mother all his life in Neverland. And when she came, he shot her. But it says twice Peter tries to stab him with an arrow, and twice his hand could not fall. Wendy is holding up Peter's arm from hurting Toodles.
Remember that acorn button? That's what the arrow hit. The kiss Peter gave her has saved her life.
And Peter's like, oh, it's the kiss I gave her. And Slightly's like, oh, I remember kisses. Yep, that's a kiss. It's that button.
Well, it becomes clear immediately that this is Tinkerbell's crime. I love this part. Listen, Tinkerbell, he cried, I am your friend no more. Be gone from me for forever. She flew onto his shoulder and pleaded, but he brushed her off. Not until Wendy again raised her arm did he relent sufficiently to say, well, not forever, but for a whole week. I love how quickly this goes from forever, well, a week.
And Tinkerbell should be grateful, but never. Not to Wendy. Not to Wendy. But these boys have boy logic. She's like, if she lies there out in the weather, she's going to die. We need to build her a house. And they ask her, like, what kind of house do you want? They actually go gut their own home of everything, all the best things, and bring them. They ask her what kind of house she wants, and she's still lying there. It says, without opening her eyes, Wendy began to sing. I wish I had a pretty house, the littlest ever seen, with funny little red walls and roof of mossy green. This works out great, because the stuff they brought was red and green. Oh, it's perfect. Hilarious to me when John and Michael show up, because they've been making their way with less adventure.
Yeah, right.
Those are her brothers, and they're like, why are you building her a house? She's their sister, and they don't get it.
Peter puts him to work, though, right off. She has other requests. Next thing I think I'll have gay windows all about, with roses peeping in, you know, and babies peeping out. This is a problem. They're not sure how they're going to pull off the roses and the babies. But they're so worried that Peter is going to make them do it, that they come up with another song to block him. We've made the roses peeping out, the babes are at the door. We cannot make ourselves, you know, because we've been made before.
Peter, seeing this to be a good idea, at once pretended that it was his own, which makes it true.
That's right.
And it's his lovely little house. One more thing, though. They need a knocker. Toodles provides his shoe. Perfect door knocker.
It works. But there's one more thing they need. There's always one more thing. There's no chimney. We must have a chimney. And this, they use John's hat. They take his hat, knock off the top, and now they've got a chimney.
Peter tells them, all look your best, because they built this house around Wendy. She's inside. All look your best. First impressions are awfully important. And it says it's good nobody asked him what a first impression is. And he's met Wendy before. But as soon as he believes it, it is true. And he believes it entirely. They knock politely. And Wendy comes out. They all take off their hats. And she looks surprised, and it's just how they hoped she looked. And she asks questions just like they hoped she'd ask. She responds perfectly for this desire of a little mother that these boys have been dreaming of.
And she tells them a story. She finishes Cinderella, and she moves into this mother role. And at the end, Peter stands guard over the house. He falls asleep, but he stands guard over the house.
Well, this is a family now, because they've asked Wendy to be their mother, and she's very honest that she doesn't really have experience. And they're like, we don't care.
Yeah, you got this.
We love you. It's great. But she takes to it. She loves the idea of getting them to bed on time and mending their pockets and exclaiming about the state of the, knees on their pants and things. Just this little mother pretending make-believe that this is her family. And the next day, though, Peter has to do a very important thing. He measures Wendy and John and Michael for hollow trees.
Because how else will they get to their home under the ground? The trees are perfectly fit to the individuals so that they can wiggle their way up and wiggle their way down, and the pirates or anyone else cannot. So they need trees.
It says, once you fit, great care must be taken to go on fitting. And this, as Wendy was to discover to her delight, keeps a whole family in perfect condition. You can't gain or lose weight, or you won't fit into your tree and be able to go to their main house. So they made Wendy this tiny little above ground thing. It's her space. But down below is where they all live together, and the descriptions are awesome. Mm-hmm. In the middle of it is a never tree that keeps trying to grow. You'd think that'd be annoying, but no, they chop it off so they have room to play. But right about lunchtime, it grows enough so it's a table, and then they chop it off again.
It works wonderfully. I think we should talk a little bit about the food and the cooking. It says their chief food was roasted breadfruit, yams, coconuts, baked pig, mammy apples, tapa rolls, and bananas washed down with calabashes of popo. But you never exactly knew whether there would be a real meal or just a make-believe. It all depended upon Peter's whim. He could eat, really eat, if it was part of a game. But he could not stodge just to feel stodgy, which is what most children like better than anything else. The next best thing to talk about it. Make-believe was so real to him that during a meal of it, you could see him getting rounder. Of course, it was trying, but you simply had to follow his lead, and if you could prove to him that you were getting loose from your tree, he let you stodge. This has been tickling my brain as I've been thinking about this idea that to Peter, it doesn't really matter if there's food. Because make-believe, pretend food is just as good for him. He can feed off of the pretend. But the other boys can't in the same way. And what we were speaking earlier about this idea of this kind of bittersweet component, the boys love the games, but there's times they just don't get to eat. I mean, that's not right. And so it brings kind of a shadow into Neverland, which I don't know that I'd really thought about before.
I think there are reasons people grow up.
Yeah.
Because there is wonder and magic and beautiful things. But yeah, there's definitely, it's not all right either. Mm-hmm. And the author does note, if you don't think Wendy thought about her parents, you might be right. Because she's a little girl too. It says, as time wore on, it's a question actually. Did she think much about the beloved parents she had left behind her? That's a difficult question because it's quite impossible to say how time does wear on in the Neverland. It's counted by suns and moons. I love it though. Wendy's not afraid because she is entirely confident, 100% confident. Her mother will always leave the window open. She can fly home at any time. That window will never be shut to her. So she's happy where she is because she has that assurance. She has a lovely mother, a loving mother back home.
Mm-hmm. I do enjoy that Wendy starts making questions for the boys. I mean, school's a thing, right? So here are their questions. And they're questions like this. What was the color of mother's eyes? Which was taller, father or mother? Was mother blonde or brunette? Answer all three questions if possible. Write an essay of not less than 40 words on how I spent my last holidays or the characters of father and mother compared. Only one of these is to be attempted, or describe mother's laugh, describe father's laugh, describe mother's party dress, describe the kennel and its inmate. there's still this tie to home.
And she doesn't want her brothers to forget, because here in Neverland, they're playing that she is all of their mother. John and Michael start to believe it. That comes a little bit later as they're there for a while, but they start to forget home.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's important to Wendy that they still have that peace. But it says in these examinations, Peter never competes. For one thing, he despised all mothers, except Wendy. And for another, he was the only boy on the island who could neither write nor spell, not the smallest word. He was above all that sort of thing. But this might be my favorite part, that when they get there early on, Peter's new game is to pretend not to have adventures. And John and Michael think this is boring, but you don't disagree with Peter in Neverland.
No.
So he'll sit on a stool and just think it's hilarious, like an old person just doing nothing, or he goes for a walk for his good health. Eventually he tires of this game, but John and Michael don't get it. Like,
yeah, that's not cool.
it was different for Peter. It says, Peter often went out alone, and when he came back, you were never absolutely certain whether he had had an adventure or not. He might have forgotten it so completely that he said nothing about it. Or sometimes he makes stuff up. You just never know where you're at with him.
I enjoy at the end of this chapter, the author starts weighing his options for what story can we tell to explain their situation in Neverland and what it's like. And he ends up deciding, after much soul searching, on the Mermaid's Lagoon. This is the story that he's going to tell.
Well, he tossed for it.
You're right, he did.
It's how a kid decides. Like, between these 5 things, we'll toss for it. The Mermaid Lagoon. Even though that one's a little complicated, because you also have to learn about the Neverbird.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm so glad, because I love the Neverbird. One thing, in all these adventures, though, it says that Peter has this peculiar habit of, in the middle of a fight, sometimes he changes sides.
Yeah.
So the Lost Boys will be battling the Indians, and then suddenly he's like, nope, now I'm an Indian. And then all the Lost Boys are like, we're Indians too. And the Indians are like, nah, cool, we're fighting. So they become the Lost Boys. Again, it's this world of game and play. It's wonderful.
As we may remember, the mermaids were one of the chief attractions that drew Wendy to go with Peter in the first place. She is so excited to meet the mermaids. The mermaids are not excited to meet Wendy. Basically, every female character loves Peter and hates any competition. And we see that very strongly with the mermaids.
Peter likes that they all love him, but he also doesn't get what they want from him. He's just a little boy.
Yeah.
But they all get jealous. So yes, Wendy never gets a civil word from any of the mermaids. But they spend time on what they call the Marooner's Rock. And this rock, apparently, when the tide comes up, it's underwater. And so the pirates will use it to drown people.
Mm-hmm.
Wendy uses it to hang out because the mermaids are pretty. The lagoon is beautiful. The mermaids have these colorful bubbles that come up. And when the mermaids go away, because they don't like to be around Wendy, the boys can play with them. But during the day, when the tide is low, she has the boys take their nap on the rock. I do love, in the house, all the boys share a bed. So there's a strict rule. There are rules in Neverland. You cannot turn over in bed until the signal is given, and they all turn together.
And there have to be rules. You cannot play as a small... It's so important there are rules. They can be ridiculous. They can be contradictory. They are often completely made up. But the fact that there are rules is what allows the game to be played.
Mm-hmm. So here, when they're sleeping on the rock, they're crammed together. It says like sardines in a tin, but they all know how to turn at the same time, so it's okay. They take their afternoon nap. And here, the sun is shining. It's beautiful in Neverland, but there's a shiver. It says something darker than a shiver. Wendy has this almost premonition of something bad coming, but the boys are sleeping. We can't interrupt that. We can't interrupt nap time. She's a very fastidious little mother.
Until Peter springs erect, as wide awake as once as a dog, and with one warning cry, he roused the others. He stood motionless, one hand to his ear. "Pirates," he cried. And then I love he gives a command, "Dive!" There was a gleam of legs, and instantly the lagoon seemed deserted. Marooner's Rock stood alone in the forbidding waters as if it were itself marooned. Everyone dives off because there's this pirate boat coming their way. There are only 2 pirates in this pirate boat. Smee, who we've already talked about, Starkey, one of the other pirates, and then a captive. And this is none other than Tiger Lily, the princess of the Native Americans.
She's pretty awesome. She's a chief's daughter. She's going to take her death sentence heroically. She makes no vain attempt to resist. That would be beneath her. She has nobility here.
And they caught her boarding the pirate ship with a knife in her mouth. That's pretty epic.
It's funny that it says that Hook doesn't keep a watch on his boat because the wind of his name guarded the ship for a mile around.
Not from Tiger Lily. She's coming after him.
Oh, the arrogance of that. My name will keep people off. The pirate speech is great. Luff, you lubber. They're leaving Tiger Lily on this rock to drown. I said that's what pirates do with this rock. But Peter does have some sense of nobility. He sees this girl on the rock being abused and abandoned to die. And here he takes on his ability to imitate the voice of Captain Hook.
Ahoy there, you lubbers, he called. It was a marvelous imitation. The captain, said the pirates, staring at each other in surprise. Set her free, came the astonishing answer. Free? Yes, cut her bonds and let her go. But captain, at once d'ye hear, cried Peter, or I'll plunge my hook in you. And they do it.
And Tiger Lily swims off. Yeah, she's okay.
She's out.
But then there's another voice. The real Hook was also in the water. So Peter and Wendy are watching this. Peter can see the rock. Wendy can see the rock. The other boys are just waiting for Peter's command. Peter always has a high estimation of himself. And he says, am I not a wonder? Oh, I am a wonder.
And he's about to crow because that's what he does. But then, again, Hook is in the water and is swimming to the boat.
But Wendy hears them talking about her. Hook sighs, and he's like, the game's up. Those boys have found a mother. And then pirates say, oh, evil day. And Smee, it says, ignorant Smee says, what's a mother? Wendy was so shocked that she exclaimed, he doesn't know. And always after this, she felt that if you could have a pet pirate, Smee would be her one. It's adorable.
Everyone likes Smee. It's great.
Here's where Hook has a conversation with himself. Hook says, who are you? And he says, I'm Captain James Hook. He's like, no, you're not. I'm Hook. They go back and forth, but the captain has kind of an existential crisis here. Like, am I Hook? And then the voice of Hook says, you are not Hook. You are a codfish. Only a codfish.
Ouch.
I like that the pirates are like, oh, we've been following a codfish.
They buy into it, which is great.
It makes no sense. But it says, Hook felt his ego slipping from him, but he resorts to the guessing game. It
always works.
It's a childhood move.
Hook, he called, have you another voice? Now Peter could never resist a game, and he answered blithely in his own voice, I have. And another name, aye. Vegetable, asked Hook. No. Mineral? No. Animal? Yes. Man? No. This answer rang out scornfully. Boy? Yes. Ordinary boy? No. Wonderful boy. To Wendy's pain, the answer that rang out this time was yes. Are you in England? No. Are you here? Yes. Hook was completely puzzled. He's so confused. But Peter is so excited. Can't guess, crowed Peter. Do you give it up? Of course, in his pride, he was carrying the game too far, and the miscreants saw their chance. Yes, they answered eagerly. Well, then, he cried, I am Peter Pan.
Hook's confidence and reputation are restored. He is not a codfish. So silly. And here is where Peter cries to the boys, lam into the pirates. And so there's some blood spilling and pinking here. The battle.
The fight was short and sharp. So they go at it, but it goes generally well. And then at the end of it, the pirates are all leaving. But where is Peter? Peter, as we know, is going to go after Hook.
It's funny, Peter and Hook climb up onto the rock, Marooner's rock, not even knowing the other one's on the other side, and their faces almost touch. And it says that some of the greatest heroes have confessed that, in that moment of confrontation, they felt afraid. Not Peter. He smiles. He felt only gladness for this battle. It's funny, it goes from the guessing game to sword play.
Oh, yeah. And they go at it. They're fighting. Peter realizes that he's higher up on the rock. He has the higher ground, and so this isn't fair fighting. So it says he gave the pirate a hand to help him up. And it was then that Hook bit him. That's a weird move. That Hook bit him. But this shocked Peter. Not the pain or being bit, but he just thought this was unfair, and that made no sense to him. And this is a great line. It says, every child is affected thus the first time he is treated unfairly. All things he has a right to when he comes to you to be yours is fairness. After you have been unfair to him, he will love you again, but he will never afterwards be quite the same boy. No one ever gets over the first unfairness. No one except Peter. He often met it, but he always forgot it. I suppose that was the real difference between him and all the rest.
And so Hook bit him. It means he clawed him. He clawed him twice and then runs away. The pirates scatter. The boys find the dinghy. They don't see Peter or Wendy, so they go looking. They go back home, always looking for Peter. They never quite find him on their own. But here, Peter and Wendy are left hurt. Peter's hurt on the rock. Oh, I know. The boys have to get home because it's bedtime.
Yeah, Wendy will not be pleased if they are not in bed when they're supposed to.
So they do what they think they should, but they leave Peter and Wendy on the rock, and Peter's hurt. Wendy can't fly on her own, and Peter doesn't have the strength right now to go.
Fortunately, something blows by. Michael's kite. This kite will be the salvation of only one of them. It's not big enough to carry them both. And Peter here shows nobility. And he attaches the kite to Wendy, and he knows that he is going to drown on this rock. And this is so impressive because at first he's a little sad about this, but then it says next moment he was standing erect on the rock again with that smile on his face and a drum beating within him. It was saying, to die will be an awfully big adventure.
They do use that in the movie Hook.
Yes, they do.
Very good. So yes, the waters are coming in here. And it says the last sound Peter heard before he was quite alone were the mermaids retiring one by one to their bedchambers under the sea. They're down below the water, and each door has a tiny bell. So he's listening to these bells ring as he's waiting to die, as the waters come lapping up. But then he sees what he thinks is a piece of floating paper. It's weird. Turns out there is a Neverbird. She has a nest that she created in the lagoon, but it fell in the water, so she just always lives there. She's always on the water there, guarding her eggs, as a mother does. It says it was not really a piece of paper. It was the Neverbird, making desperate efforts to reach Peter on the nest. By working her wings in a way she had learned since the nest fell into the water, she was able, to some extent, to guide her strange craft. But by the time Peter recognized her, she was very exhausted. But she had come to save him, to give him her nest, even though there were her eggs in it.
I love that it says, I rather wonder at the bird, for though he had been nice to her, he had also sometimes tormented her. I can suppose only that, like Mrs. Darling and the rest of them, she was melted because he had all his first teeth.
He's just little.
But then there's this whole interaction between the Neverbird and Peter where they can't talk to each other. And so she's trying to help him, and he's yelling at her slower and louder to see if she'll understand. And they keep going back and forth. But eventually, she kind of kicks the nest over to them, and he understands, oh, she's giving me this to float on.
But she doesn't leave. It says it's not to receive his thanks that she hung there in the sky. It was not even to watch him get into the nest. It was to see what he did with her eggs. Peter's very capricious. She doesn't know for sure if he'll do right by her or not. but this Neverbird went to all this effort to save him.
Yeah, she doesn't know what he's going to do with the eggs, but Peter, again, shows some goodness here. They have been going back and forth with the pirates for a while, and the children have discovered the hoard of the pirates. All their gold and diamonds and pearls is out here on this other rock, and there's this stave on the rock, and on that is a hat. This is the hat of Starkey, one of the pirates. And so what Peter does is he takes this hat, puts it on the water, and he puts the eggs in the hat so he can sit in the nest. So he's able to be saved by the nest of the Neverbird. But then there's this hat that the Neverbird can come and now use as a nest for her eggs. And I think, doesn't it say that later on all the Neverbird nests all look like this hat?
It may be worth mentioning here that all Neverbirds now build in that shape of nest, with a broad brim on which the youngsters take an airing. He changed Neverbird future forever.
It ends happily. Tiger Lily has been saved. The pirates have been thwarted. Wendy is saved with the kite. And Peter is saved by the Neverbird. And they all make it back home.
So that was the story that won the toss for the telling. But there are many more that he references going into it. But then we wrap up with what he calls the Night of Nights. We have now reached the evening that was to be known among them as the Night of Nights because of its adventures and their upshot. And so there's many references like if they'd known it was the Night of Nights, they might have done things differently, but they didn't know.
Mm-hmm. There are some important changes that happen based off of that adventure that factor into this. One is that the Indians and the Lost Boys are now friends, and the Indians are actually guarding their home. They're sleeping on the ground above the Lost Boys' home to guard it. This is one of those passages when you're reading it to your kids, you might need to explain some stuff. That's that whole imperialism thing. But yeah, this night is important. And there's this whole discussion that happens in their happy home about mothers and fathers. We've talked a lot about mothers, but Peter kind of naturally would be the father figure here. He's in charge. But Peter's very uncomfortable with this because to be a father means he would be old. And Peter will not grow up.
Toodles offers or asks if he can be the father. I'm like, no, not you. He's like, okay, can I be the baby then? No, not you. Poor Toodles.
Poor Toodles.
I like that Wendy tries to put some rules and decorum in their little home. So you can't hit back at meals. And if you have an issue, you're supposed to raise your hand and say, so-and-so did this to me. So it just devolves into this thing where Slightly's coughing on the table. The twins began with the cheesecakes. Curly's taking both butter and honey. I mean, it goes on and on. As little kids do.
Yeah, anyone who has parented children know that you put in a rule meant to control one thing, and there's this whole law of unintended consequences where it just gets turned inevitably into this game that's more annoying than the original actions. After they're having this conversation about kind of mothers and fathers, Wendy starts to tell a story. And it's interesting because it says Peter doesn't usually stick around for this story. He does not like it. He hates this story. But this time he sticks around and Wendy starts to tell it.
She tells a story about family, her family. And I mean, there's a lot of interruptions because this is a group of young boys listening to her, but there's descendants like John and Michael, and they're talking about their mother and father and how wonderful it is.
And there's all the questions. Am I a descendant? And they have to explain.
Yeah. These 3 children had a faithful nurse called Nana. But Mr. Darling was angry with her and chained her up in the yard, and so all the children flew away. And they love this story. I mean, she tells them their own story of coming to Neverland. The comments on mother's love here, it's adorable. It says, because the boys are worried. They say, I don't see how it can have a happy ending. They're very concerned. If you knew how great is a mother's love, Wendy told them triumphantly, you would have no fear. She had now come to the part that Peter hated. You see, our heroine knew that the mother would always leave the window open for her children to fly back. Wendy is the heroine. So they stayed away for years and had a lovely time. And they asked, though, did they ever go back? And she's like, well, let's look into the future. Oh, and she sees herself in London again.
That's right. An elegant lady of uncertain age alighting at London Station.
And there's 2 noble, portly figures accompanying her. Those her brothers.
Now grown to man's estate.
So these boys love this story about them growing up.
And then she points. See, dear brother, said Wendy, pointing upwards, there's the window still standing open. Ah, now we are rewarded for our sublime faith in a mother's love.
Peter tells her at the end, though, you are wrong about mothers. He says, long ago, I thought like you that my mother would always keep the window open for me. So I stayed away for moons and moons and moons and flew back. But the window was barred, for mother had forgotten all about me, and there was another little boy sleeping in my bed. And the narrator says, I'm not sure that this was true, but Peter thought it was true, and it scares all of them.
Wendy, though, is starting to think about her own mother. I mean, she's been in this mother role now, but she starts to think about her own mother, and she wonders about whether her mother is in mourning and missing her. And it says, this dread made her forgetful of what must be Peter's feelings, and she said to him rather sharply, Peter, will you make the necessary arrangements? She's asking to go home. If you wish it, he replied, as coolly as if she had asked him to pass the nuts.
The Lost Boys are not okay with the idea of Wendy leaving. But John and Michael, they all want to go home. John, Michael, and Wendy. But they basically ask if they can come too. They like that story about growing up, these portly gentlemen at the train station.
Peter is really putting on a show, pretending that he doesn't care. There's a great passage here that says, but of course he cared very much, and he was so full of wrath against grown-ups, who as usual were spoiling everything, that as soon as he got inside his tree, he breathed intentionally quick, short breaths at the rate of about 5 to a second. He did this because there is a saying in the Neverland that every time you breathe, a grown-up dies, and Peter was killing them off vindictively as fast as possible. I've never heard that part of the story before. We've all heard every time a child says they don't believe in fairies, a fairy dies. But I had never heard this killing attack on grown-ups before. And so that was different.
He's taking it very seriously. But he conveys it very coolly, like he doesn't care at all. Tinkerbell will take you across the sea. Go get her. Go wake her up. And these boys are going to leave. With Wendy, with the mother, their little mother. At that time, though, you said the Indians were guarding their home. They hear a battle. The pirates have broken the rules. There's this long discourse about how they should have known better. Pirate?
Right. I'm not sure he makes the case.
No, they break the rules and take the Indians by surprise at apparently the time when they are not allowed to do that.
So all the boys now turn to Peter, because if there's a battle going on, Peter is who they need. And it says, as for Peter, he seized his sword, the same he thought he had slain Barbecue with, and the lust of battle was in his eye. This is what Peter lives for, and the battle is going on overhead.
It does comment on why Captain Hook hates Peter so much. The truth is that there was something about Peter which goaded the pirate captain to frenzy. That's why he broke the rules. Because he knows better. It was not Peter's courage. It was not his engaging appearance. It was not anything. There is no beating about the bush, for we know quite well what it was and have got to tell. It was Peter's cockiness.
Just can't stand that kid.
It's hilarious because Hook is immensely cocky, man. The things you hate in yourself, I feel like you see it in somebody else. But Peter's young and he is not.
Yeah. And so that's why this battle is going on now. And the pirates win. Tiger Lily is able to escape. She's able to cut her way through with some of her braves, but this is a decisive pirate victory. But the boys down below don't know that. And Peter doesn't actually go up to check on the battle. He knows the ways of the people of Neverland. And he says, don't worry. If the Indians have won, they will beat their tom-toms. And they all listen to hear for this sound. Well, Smee is sitting on the tom-tom, and they're not going to beat on it, but Captain Hook is smart and shrewd and clever, and he has him beat on the tom-tom. And so now all the boys believe that the Indians have won, where in fact Hook sends his men to have pirates by every hollow tree to capture the boys when they come up.
It said earlier that it had never occurred to the boys that they didn't each need their own entrance. They could just have one door. And that's how you knew that they didn't have a mother. Because it was just common sense and like, they'd never even thought of it. But here they think it's safe up above ground and they were ready to go home. And so each of them pops up their tree and very quietly the pirates capture them. Except for Wendy, they're all kind of, in my head, kind of nabbed in a sack and passed down the road. Mm-hmm. Wendy gets a bow from Captain Hook. Very formal. And it says she's just a little girl. She doesn't know what she's doing. So they're all captured.
A different treatment was accorded to Wendy, who came last. With ironical politeness, Hook raised his hat to her and, offering her his arm, escorted her to the spot where the others were being gagged. He did it with such an air, he was so frightfully distingué, that she was too fascinated to cry out. She was only a little girl.
Mm. So they're tied together so they can't fly away, and they're taken to the Jolly Roger.
And this is all done very quietly. And meanwhile, Peter is not with them. Remember, he's pouting because he does not want to go with them, won't go with them. Wendy is very concerned about him. She makes him promise her things. You know, please promise me you'll take your medicine. Again, medicine pops up in this. And he says, yeah, sure, fine. But he ends up just falling asleep on the bed underground. And so he doesn't know that they've all been captured. This is Captain Hook's opportunity. He goes down one of these hollow trees because apparently one of the boys had been stodging, had gotten portly.
It says, wait, hang on. This is ridiculous. He had been stodging on water when he was hot. So he'd been chipping away at the tree around it. He'd made his hollow tree entrance bigger. And as they're gagging him, they realize that he's kind of squishy. So Hook can actually go down in through his hollow tree entrance on water, Stephen.
Fortunately, there's a door at the bottom of the hollow tree. And though Hook can get down the tree, he can't get through the door in order to attack and kill Peter while he's sleeping. But Hook always has a plan, and he sees the medicine. There's the liquid medicine that Peter has promised to drink. And Hook always carries poison with him. He's got quite the supply. And he drops the poison in the medicine, and he leaves knowing that Peter will now be dead.
Well, it says why. Lest he be taken alive. It's his own death poison. He puts it in Peter's medicine. Peter here, we get to see he was actually sad. It references how he has these terrible dreams occasionally. He had night terrors for this little boy. And Wendy, the mother, she would comfort him at night. And he realizes he won't have that anymore. He falls asleep, didn't take his medicine because he's trying to, retaliate against her in some way. But when he wakes up, Tinkerbell shows up. And she tells him the boys have been arrested and Hook poisoned your medicine. He's like, that's absurd. How would Hook have gotten in here? But he insists that he drink it because Wendy told him to.
Right.
And he feels bad she got arrested. And here's where Tinkerbell shows that she actually does care for Peter, not just in a superficial way. She drinks poison for him.
He raised the cup. No times for words now, time for deeds. And with one of her lightning movements, Tink got between his lips and the draught and drained it to the dregs. Why, Tink, how dare you drink my medicine? But she did not answer. Already she was reeling in the air. What is the matter with you? Cried Peter, suddenly afraid. It was poison, Peter, she told him softly, and now I am going to be dead.
It makes him cry. Very few things make Peter cry. But it says that Tinkerbell likes his tears so much that she puts out her beautiful finger and lets his tears run over it. And here, if you saw this as a play, I just think this would be a wonderful interaction with the audience. Clap if you believe in fairies. Mm-hmm. She's fading. She's dying. Her light is going out. Clap louder. And Peter, like we said at the beginning, even Mrs. Darling remembers something about Peter Pan from when she was little. People know, kids know something about Peter in their dreams, and so he entreats them all. Do you believe in fairies? It says a few beasts hissed, but the rest of them clap wonderfully. Yeah. Tinkerbell is saved, and she wants to go looking for those few that hissed.
I think it's fair to say this may be the most well-known scene in the Peter Pan story, the clap if you believe in fairies. And certainly in the movies and plays and things I've watched, I've seen this portrayed. And I really wondered how they were going to do it in the novel. And I think the turn he makes on it is brilliant, just the way you described, how it's the reaching out to children in their dreams. I mean, as I was reading it, I was wondering, okay, am I going to have to put the book down and clap? Because I was ready.
Yay!
I was going to if I had to. But no, the sleeping children do it. And I have been charmed by this book.
Mm-hmm. And now, to rescue Wendy! And it describes Neverland. The moon was riding in a cloudy heaven when Peter rose from his tree, begirt with weapons and wearing little else, to set out upon his perilous quest. And here he takes a terrible oath. Hook or me this time. This is the end of it.
Now he crawled forward like a snake, and again erect, he darted across the space on which the moonlight played, one finger on his lip and his dagger at the ready. He was frightfully happy.
It says that the crocodile passes him, but it's quiet. The clock has run down. The crocodile's not ticking anymore.
I love that nobody else cares about the crocodile. Hook is so massively afraid of this beast, and everyone's, oh, look, a crocodile.
It has a taste for Captain Hook only. And so here's where we move to the pirate ship.
And is this where it's first named? The Jolly Roger? It's a great name for a pirate ship.
Mm-hmm. The description of it is great. One green light squinting over Kidd's Creek, which is near the mouth of the Pirate River, marked where the brig, the Jolly Roger, lay, low in the water, a rakish-looking craft foul to the hull, every beam in her detestable, like ground strewn with mangled feathers. She was the cannibal of the seas, and scarce needed that watchful eye, for she floated immune in the horror of her name. Wow.
So good. And the description here is wonderful because it talks about how you would think Hook would be happy. Peter's dead. He's had this massive victory. He's defeated the Indians. He's defeated the Lost Boys. They're about to walk the plank. Life is good. But Captain Hook is a bit of an enigma, and he's not happy. And this delves into the character of Captain Hook, where he is obviously a schoolmaster.
This came out of nowhere.
Like a principal, like, from, Eton or Oxford or Cambridge, one of these high things. It says they won't actually tell you who he is because it would destroy society if we knew who this guy was. But it starts launching into this concept of form, good form and bad form. And again, this takes me back to the Hook version of telling this. I think what I'm learning from reading this novel is that Hook is my favorite telling of this story.
That I know of, absolutely.
Because there's all these references they slide in. And Captain Hook is very concerned about this concept of good form or bad form, fair play versus foul play. And again, he's a pirate. Why would he care about this? But there's something deeply inside him that does. And that's going to play a very important role as this chapter unfolds.
And he's getting in his own head. It says, most disquieting reflection of all, was it not bad form to think about good form? He gets really angry with Smee because he just naturally has good form. Like, children love Smee, even though he's a pirate. They just love him because he's simple. He has good form. Hook does not. And he's very worried about it.
Captain Hook does offer 2 of the boys. He needs pages, cabin boys. And 2 of them can turn pirate. And so he offers it to them. And it is so funny the way the boys think through this. Would your mother be proud of you being a pirate? No, my mother wouldn't. Would your mother be proud?
I don't think so.
They go down the list until the only one who is seriously tempted is John. Because again, John had dreamed of being a pirate. He was going to be named Red-Handed Jack. He had his name, and Hook is on board. It's like, oh yeah, we'll call you that. You can do that. But what turns him off from it is that he's a king's man, that he wants to be a citizen of the king, and pirates are not citizens of the king. And so John just isn't going to go there because that would not be right.
I refuse. Rule Britannia. This is an island off the mainland. That seals your doom, Hook says. Bring up their mother and get the plank ready. And they're scared. But Hook tells Wendy You are to see your children walk the plank. And Wendy asks, are they to die? And he says, they are. Silence all for a mother's last words to her children. At this moment, Wendy was grand. These are my last words, dear boys. I feel that I have a message to you from your real mothers, and it is this. We hope our sons will die like English gentlemen.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my. It's at about this time, as the boys are heading to the plank, Wendy is tied up at the mast, that a sound comes up over the edge of the ship. Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock.
It was the terrible tick-tick of the crocodile. They all heard it. Pirates, boys, Wendy, and they all look. And Hook freaks out. He wants to hide. It says he falls in a heap. The crocodile is coming aboard the ship, and they say it's fate. You can't even fight back against this crocodile.
That's right. It's going to happen. And so they all get as far away from the sound as possible. They're just all staring at Hook. Hook is trying to escape. No one's looking. And it says, only when Hook was hidden from them did curiosity loosen the limbs of the boys so that they could rush to the ship's side to see the crocodile climbing it. Then they got the strangest surprise of this night of nights, for it was no crocodile that was coming to their aid. It was Peter. He signed to them not to give vent to any cry of admiration that might rouse suspicion. Then he went on ticking.
It goes back to Peter's travels across Neverland towards this ship, the Hook or me this time. We said the crocodile went by and he was silent. Peter gets thinking and he starts ticking himself. And he just continues doing it. It wasn't even a plan of his to use this. He just kept ticking. He's very good at it.
Yeah, he did find it was useful, though, because everyone is scared of this crocodile, or at least knows this crocodile. And so it let him travel faster over land because all the beasts and everything would stay away from him when he was ticking. And then here, well, it worked out really well for him, and it lets him get on the boat.
He realizes that he was ticking himself. And in a flash, he understood his situation. How clever of me, he thought. And he goes to board this ship.
And he crawls up over the edge, and unseen by any of the pirates or Captain Hook, but seen by the boys, he's able to sneak into the captain. He's looking for the keys.
Cabin.
He sneaks into the cabin. He's looking for the keys so he can free the boys that are all chained up and tied up around him. But again, none of the pirates see him go into this cabin.
So they're ready to have boys walk the plank again. Back to business. But I forget, why did they go in?
Because Captain Hook, though, again, he's starting to think, well, what else can I do? The plank, that's one thing. Should we give him a touch of the cat? The cat o' nine tails, right? The famous flog of pirates. And everyone thinks this is a spectacular idea. Well, it's in the cabin. And so he sends a minion to go into the cabin to fetch the cat o' nine tails.
I believe it's Slightly who keeps account of dead pirates.
Yeah.
As they go into the cabin, Hook's way too scared to go in there. It says there's this crowing, but it sounds like this screaming, screeching animal. The boys saw Peter go in there.
Yeah.
So they're just enjoying the fun.
Yeah. So this first pirate that goes to get the cat of nine tails, he doesn't come out. There's this screeching and crowing, and he just doesn't come out. And then pirate after pirate after pirate gets sent in to where Hook has to threaten them to get them to go anywhere near it. And then finally, Hook has this great idea. I will send the boys in, and then they can deal with whatever this thing that's haunting my ship is. Well, this works out fantastic because the boys can now go into the cabin. Peter, by this time, has found the key, so he's able to unlock them from their chains, and now they are ready to face the pirates.
So the boys hide in the cabin until Peter gives the word, because Peter, he made an oath. Hook or me this time. They can't just run off. That would be a boring end to this adventure. So he actually sneaks up to where Wendy is tied to the mast, cuts her loose, and he hides himself in her cloak. So Hook thinks it's Wendy on the mast, but it's Peter.
At this point, Hook is ready to throw Wendy overboard. Fling the girl overboard, cried Hook, and they made a rush at the figure in the cloak. There's none can save you now, Missy, Mullins hissed jeeringly. There's one, replied the figure. Who's that? Peter Pan, the Avenger, came the terrible answer. And as he spoke, Peter flung off his cloak. They all knew who 'twas who had been undoing them in the cabin, and twice Hook essayed to speak, and twice he failed. In that frightful moment, I think his fierce heart broke.
This is the moment when Hook loses, but there's still a battle.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And the words, the back and forth is very good, where Hook, without conviction, says, "Cleave him to the brisket."
With conviction, that could be very scary.
And Hook also says, "Proud and insolent youth, prepare to meet thy doom." And Peter says, "Dark and sinister man, have at thee." It's a great back and forth.
It really is. Some banter between the two of them fighting. Hook holds his own against all the other lost boys. But again, they have all sworn to let Peter take him. And this is the great final battle between the two of them.
It says that Peter expresses this magnificent gesture where he allows Hook to pick up his sword. He disarms him, drops his sword, and he allows him to pick up his sword. Hook knows this is good form. So all he wants now, not even to win, he doesn't even hope to win. It's to see Peter display some bad form.
Because he starts thinking about Peter and wondering, who is this guy? And he says, "Pan, who and what art thou?" he cried huskily. "I'm youth. I'm joy," Peter answered at a venture. "I'm a little bird that has broken out of the egg." This, of course, was nonsense, but it was proof to the unhappy Hook that Peter did not know in the least who or what he was, which is the very pinnacle of good form.
Yeah, Hook tries to take everybody out, and he lights the powder magazine. Peter's very calm, takes it out, throws it in the water. No problem.
Eventually, though, the fighting goes on, and Peter eventually gets the upper hand. It says, "James Hook, though not wholly an unheroic figure, farewell, for we have come to his last moment." Seeing Peter slowly advancing upon him through the air with a dagger poised, he sprang upon the bulwarks to cast himself into the sea. He did not know that the crocodile was waiting for him, for we purposely stopped the clock that his knowledge might be spared him, a little mark of respect from us at the end. He had one last triumph, which I think we need not grudge him. As he stood on the bulwark looking over his shoulder at Peter gliding through the air, he invited him with a gesture to use his foot. It made Peter kick instead of stab. At last, Hook had got the boon for which he craved. "Bad form," he cried jeeringly, and went content to the crocodile. Thus perished James Hook.
At this point, all the boys are tired, and the pirate ship is empty of pirates. So they do fall asleep. But it says that by 3 bells that morning, they were all stirring their stumps. They become pirates.
Well, there's some concern whether Peter is going to turn pirate. Remember earlier when he kept switching back and forth? They thought, oh, yeah, he's definitely going to be a pirate now.
So some of them wanted it to be an honest ship, and others were in favor of keeping it a pirate. But the captain treated them as dogs, and they dared not express their wishes to him even in a round robin. Still, though, this chapter is called The Return Home. These kids want to go home. Everyone except Peter wants to go home.
And there's a flashback to home, to Mr. and Mrs. Darling and Nana. And we already know from Wendy that Mrs. Darling is going to keep the window open. Mrs. Darling is doing that. She will always keep the window open for their return home. But the funniest part about this chapter for me was Mr. Darling.
Surprising.
Yeah, remember, this is the guy who is all concerned about what people thought, about people looking at them and, you know, whether Nana the dog was causing him to lose face in the eyes of his neighbors. Well, he has taken this upon himself to the point that he decides he is going to go and sleep in the kennel himself, not Nana. Not just sleep in it, but just hang out and stay in the kennel. He actually has the kennel carried to work. He does his work out of the kennel because it's this mark of contrition, of repentance, of shame. But it goes over really well.
Yeah.
People think it's awesome. He becomes very popular. People come and ask him to sign autographs for it.
It does seem like he's truly contrite, though. His wife asks, like, are you sure it's not because they clap? But he made this kind of rash vow that he would not leave the kennel until the kids return home. And he's taking it very seriously. It also says that he's very deferential to Nana. He would not let her come into the kennel, but on all other matters, he followed her wishes implicitly. So he has learned his lesson, and Mrs. Darling is just grieving. They don't know when or if the kids will come home. But yes, the window is always open. At some point on a cold day, Mr. Darling's like, should we close that? And no, what are you thinking? It must always remain open.
The author points out, now I understand what had hitherto puzzled me. Why, when Peter had exterminated the pirates, he did not return to the island and leave Tink to escort the children to the mainland. This trick had been in his head all the time. As they're describing Mrs. Darling grieving, waiting for her children, the children are not who come in the window. It is Peter Pan and Tinker Bell who come in the window first. And they aren't seen by Mrs. Darling, but Peter Pan's plan is to close the window so that Wendy and the boys have to stay with him. It's a pretty cruel trick.
He's looking at Wendy's mother, though. He said she's a pretty lady, but not nearly as pretty as my mother. He doesn't remember it all.
No.
It says her mouth is full of thimbles, but not so full as my mother's was. So even he has some pride in whoever his mom was, way back when. But she is sad. And it says Peter peeped in again to see why the music had stopped, because the mother had been playing piano. And now he saw that Mrs. Darling had laid her head on a box and that 2 tears were sitting in her eyes. And he thinks, she wants me to unbar the window, but I won't, not me. He peeped again, and the tears were still there, or another 2 had taken their place. And he thinks, she's awfully fond of Wendy, but so am I. She can't have my Wendy. He says, the reason was so simple. I'm fond of her too. We can't both have her, lady. But the lady would not make the best of it, and he was unhappy. He ceased to look at her, but even then she would not let go of him. He says, oh, all right, and he unbars the window. Looking at her grief, he unbars the window.
The return is funny because Wendy, John, and Michael come in and they decide that they're going to hide in their beds and just surprise their mother. But the mother has been imagining him in their beds the whole time that she doesn't get it and doesn't realize they're there. So they end up having to call to her, and the reunion happens, and it's very sweet and very charming.
But it does end with Peter. It says he had had ecstasies innumerable that other children can never know. But he was looking through the window at the one joy from which he must be forever barred.
Boy, isn't that the most powerful line in the entire book?
Mm.
The other thing that happens is the other boys
It says
are there.
they count to 500 before they go up. There are 6 more boys. Mr. Darling was reluctant about the 3 they already had and the expenses of it.
But he's grown. He's grown. But he does seem a little kind of standoffish at first, a little sad, a little hurt. Turns out he's angry that they didn't ask him. He's wounded that they didn't ask him. And then he leads these new boys on this romp through the house. He says, well, is it the sitting room or something like that? We're going to see if you can fit. He says, I don't know if we have a sitting room.
But we're going to make it work.
We're going to go look for it.
I looked up a cipher because it says that they looked at Mrs. Darling. These boys have been looking for a mother. There's very little mention about a father. They had Peter. I mean, he was the only really mention of a father I can think of. So all the boys look at Mrs. Darling, and it hurts the dad's feelings.
Yeah.
He's like, treated like a cipher in my own house. And what's a cipher? It's like a non-important person. Mm. I've not heard that phrase before, a cipher.
Cipher, I've seen that word pop up in several books, and often with different meanings. And so this was a version of it that I had not familiar with that meaning.
Anyway, they're going to be a family here.
Yeah.
And Peter's hanging around outside. He's not going to go say goodbye to Wendy, but he kind of hangs out. She can come out to me if she wants to.
Yeah. Wendy's mother gets to see Peter, and Peter is invited to stay. But again, he's the boy who will not grow up, and so he refuses. But he does do this kind of negotiation with Wendy and Wendy's mom, and it becomes decided that he can come back and get Wendy every spring for spring cleaning. And that's what they're going to do. He remembers to do it the first year.
Mm. And then he misses a year, and then it's many years later. And Wendy's always waiting for him. But she gets older. She grows up. All these boys grow up. It describes each of them actually as they grow up. And there's a part of her that wonders on her wedding day whether he's going to show up and just forbid the whole thing. it doesn't happen. Peter doesn't come back again until she's a mother herself and has a baby girl named Jane.
Yeah. There's a few other things that struck me as very sad and poignant in some of those first visitations. So this is when Wendy was still going back with him. He doesn't remember Captain Hook. Captain Hook, who was such an important part of that initial story, who was the villain, Hook or Me, he doesn't remember him. He also doesn't remember Tinkerbell. This shocked me because Tinkerbell and Peter Pan, those just go together in my head. But the author is very clear that fairies don't live that long. And when Tinkerbell is gone, he doesn't remember her. And there's something tragic about that these are just gone from him.
Yeah, this whole last segment has a lot of that awareness of growing up and absence. People dying, people moving on, people not being around anymore. And the fairy, that struck me too, that Tinkerbell, who's that?
Yeah.
But I think in a lot of tellings of fairies, they're a lot like a flower. You know, they're very elemental. They have these seasons. I don't think they live very long. And they made a big focus in this story about how small she is.
Yeah.
Right? She's a very small person, very small fairy. She can't have a lot of emotions. It has to be one or the other. She's either fully alive or fully gone. So I think that's part of it, is this transition of things. But yeah, that he doesn't remember Captain Hook and Tinkerbell. But he also doesn't remember Wendy.
Yeah.
It takes him years and years to come back. He's like, did you forget spring cleaning? He got that wrong.
Yeah. And so there's this series of daughters because Wendy has a daughter, Jane. And Jane then goes to Neverland. And then it goes even further where Jane has a daughter, Margaret. And Margaret goes to Neverland. And Peter Pan always remains Peter Pan, but people grow up and people change.
But he always needs a mother.
He always needs a mother. I loved this book, and I was not expecting to. I felt like I knew the Peter Pan story and that I wasn't going to get a lot out of this. I got a ton out of this. And I think, again, charmed is the word I keep using. It's a charming book, but there's a depth to it. And it really does make you think about life and growing up and this concept of potentiality, right? When we're young, everything is in front of us. You have unlimited options, but then you make a choice. And that choice might be good or bad, but whether good or bad, you've got fewer options. And as you grow up, you keep making choices. And what you do is you accomplish more, you make more things, but you lose that potential to do other things. Now, I think the trade is worth it because this is how you lead a life having done stuff, is you make choices and you live with it. But I can see the attraction on some level of being in a stage where you don't make those choices and you just stay forever potential, the potential for anything to happen. But then you forget Tinkerbell and you forget Wendy and you don't get to live the life. And so it's a beautiful picture of kind of this never growing up childishness, but it also, I think, is somehow affirming of, I mean, because we don't have the choice about growing up or not. But we also don't need to regret the fact that we grow up because we gain things that Peter can never have.
To me, it was so sweet about mothers. When I watch Hook, that's about his dad. That's about Peter as a dad. A lot about fathers. And his daughter in that is, she has sympathy for Captain Hook because he doesn't have a mom, you know, and she misses her mom. But in this, where it's not even Peter's literal mom, his biological mom, wherever he came from way back at the beginning, he can still be loved by these little maternal creatures. I think it is incredibly sweet how they can express love to him through it. And they do grow up. They want this romance, this story. They grow up. Wendy gets married. That's not what Peter needs. It's a mother's love, and it's adorable. And I actually love the narrator, the author in it. At one point, he gets mad at Mrs. Darling because he wants to tell her something, like it's going to be fine, but she wouldn't listen. And little kids do get mad at their mom. But then soon after that, he's like, some like Peter, some like Wendy, but I like her best. I like Mrs. Darling best because she did love her kids and she always left that window open. It's just this wonderful demonstration of what a mother's love can look like. Loved it.
Well, I think it'll be appropriate to wrap this up with the final paragraph of the book. As you look at Wendy, you may see her hair becoming white, and her figure little again, for all this happened long ago. Jane is now a common grown-up, with a daughter called Margaret, and every spring cleaning time, except when he forgets, Peter comes for Margaret and takes her to the Neverland, where she tells him stories about himself, to which he listens eagerly. When Margaret grows up, she will have a daughter, who is to be Peter's mother in turn, and thus it will go on, so long as children are gay and innocent and heartless. And with that, we'll turn the page, and we hope you join us for the next chapter.